Good morning, Maritza Urquiza with the Department of Finance. California's local control funding formula identifies as an indicator of pupil achievement the percentage of students who meet the requirements for entrance to the CSU and the UC. Completion of A through G requirements is an important component of eligibility to the public universities. However, completion of these requirements remains uneven across the state. As Hans Johnson mentioned, while completion rates are increasing, there are disparities within subgroups. Data from the Department of Education reveal that statewide, 42% of high school graduates complete the courses necessary for UC and CSU entrance. But in one county, the percentage of graduates meeting that requirement is as low as 10%. These completion rates are likely a result of many factors, including access to courses. The May revision includes $4 million general fund on a one-time basis for middle class scholarship savings for a new A through G success initiative to make progress on these challenges. SCOUT is an existing UC program that provides free online middle school and high school classes and curriculum approved by the UC to meet the A through G subject requirements. SCOUT currently offers 26 of these courses. As part of the A through G Success Initiative, SCOUT would consult with schools to determine needs and add 45 additional courses by January 2018. We also intend to work with the UC and others to expand awareness of the availability of these resources. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. LAO?
Jason Constantoros, LEO. And before I comment on the proposal, I just wanted to point out that we've distributed a handout summarizing the governor's May revision proposals, and they also provide our recommendations. For the sake of simplicity, I won't keep referring to it. I know you have a lot of papers there, so I don't want to make you keep flipping through different packets of information. In terms of this proposal for UC Scout, while we think the goal of the proposal, which we understand to be to provide distance learning and free course content for teachers that are A through G approved, might have merit, we do recommend at this time rejecting this proposal. We think that there are some key questions we still have about the proposal. For example, are the classes meeting unmet demand? What is that unmet demand? It appears that the proposal is upgrading some existing courses that are already offered rather than making whole new courses. We also have questions about whether or not online providers currently already offer these courses, and if that's sufficiently meeting this unmet demand, and if there's a key advantage to adding these courses to UC Scout specifically. And we have questions about whether or not the proposed funding really is appropriate for this proposal. So at this time, we recommend rejecting it without prejudice until further information is provided.
Thank you. UC?
I think that Ms. Urquiza has done a pretty good job here describing what the Scout program is. I would just add a little bit of additional information to sort of frame where Scout lives at the university. So the university has 13 student academic prep and educational partnerships programs, so 13 SAPEP programs in our overall portfolio, and they're very geared towards preparing students academically to enter four-year colleges directly from high school or as transfers. But we think they also contribute significantly to raising the overall K through 12 student achievement levels. They help address barriers to inequity and access to education, and they increase diversity of graduate and professional school enrollment as well. So we're currently using SAPEP in more than 1,000 K through 12 institutions, and more than 200,000 students are impacted by SAPEP altogether. Where Scout lives within this, there's basically 4 different buckets that you can divide SAPEP up into. And the most well-known in the first category is student academic prep programs like the Early Academic Outreach Program, MESA, Point A, Transfer Prep. So that's what people are most familiar with. But there's also partnerships directly with schools and communities. There's educator preparation programs as well. And then Scout is in the online courses and technology-assisted services category. So it is, as Ms. Urquiza mentioned, an online learning platform. It provides interactive online courses, currently 25. I believe the proposal is to expand by 46 courses. These are courses that are developed by UC faculty. They're certified by UC for the A through G requirements, and then the advanced placement courses are further certified by the College Board. So most Scout students would take a Scout program or Scout class rather, because they want to take an advanced course that's not offered in their school, or they have a scheduling conflict, and so they would like to do one of the courses online, or they failed a semester. So that's called credit recovery. So if they received a grade that was too low and could inhibit their graduation on time or prohibit them from achieving a grade point average, a minimum grade point average required for admission to CSU or UC, that could help them to get caught up. And then there are instances where some schools don't offer summer school or have very limited summer school offerings. So that's just a little bit more additional background. I would point out as well that the proposal is for one-time funding. And so with respect to SAPEP, there's always been sort of a long and winding road of funding, and it's been more stable in the past years, and that's great. A concrete proposal for one-time funding is welcome. And we think we would be very careful in how we would use one-time funds in this area, so as not to create and then cut off programs that really need sustained resources.
Okay. Thank you. Questions or comments? Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes, with regard to the, I guess it's the Scout program, do you have any data to show what the success of the program is? I mean, I see that there's been 13,000 students enrolled. So what's the completion rate of the courses, et cetera, and how is that transferred into success at the higher education level?
Maybe I'll start and then turn it over to Karen. Krishna Osmani with the Department of Finance. One thing that I think we would clarify is that students don't necessarily, UC doesn't necessarily award credit for these courses. So UC makes curriculum, content available that's available to students and teachers to use for free, and students often blend them in with instruction that they teach at the school. In those cases where a school doesn't have a teacher to teach, a credentialed teacher to teach one of these courses, they can pay UC a fee, a per-student fee, to have the student enroll in a course taught by a UC instructor. But even in that circumstance, the district is the one that's awarding the credit to the student for having taken the course. So I don't know that we have kind of system-wide data for how many Scout students have been awarded credit by their district, and I think the use varies across the districts. So
the Scout system, again, you're saying is it's content. It's not necessarily classes. Right? If I'm going to teach, I'm a teacher, I'm going to teach an AP class. That's kind of a significant undertaking. There's typically some special training for that. But what you're offering also is some extra content material, if you will, resources for a teacher to use in a classroom setting.
Content and a platform. So if you, I think, and Mr. Flaherty can probably speak to this better, but I think the platform is, if a teacher wants to have the full technology environment, they can pay UC a fee to organize the class, provide kind of the assessment materials, quizzes, and other types of resources to help them offer that course online.
So how would they work in a classroom setting? Would everyone have to have a computer? Could they print them off? Because not everyone's going to have a computer in a classroom, typically.
It's mostly more interactive material, so I think that it's not necessarily a computer, but some type of device I think is necessary for most of these courses.
So how much of this money goes down? So I'm confused now. Now it's resources, but are there classes offered too?
No, the funding proposal would be for adding additional online courses to the existing platform, and in some cases taking existing and upgrading what is already offered as an A through G course or an advanced placement course. So it is to design online courses. That's what the funding would be used for.
Okay, so you have online courses now.
Correct.
Students they can go home, they get on a computer, they can take the online course.
Correct. should know, but I don't know for sure about the specific location, but I'm assuming that they can use their own personal computers in their home space in addition to computer lab, laptop, or whatever other resource they might have available to them at the school.
And so these are AP courses?
So there are some that are AP courses and some that are college preparation courses, the A through G courses.
Okay. And this would be done in concert with the school district?
Outcomes, a lot more outcomes.
Yes. Yeah. For A through G courses, the university would have to be certifying that the course meets UC standards for an A through G course. For advanced placement courses, it would be the College Board that certifies.
Right.
But the district doesn't necessarily have to grant a student credit for completing. So that would be the student still needs to work with the teacher in the district to figure out whether they're getting credit for the course.
Okay. So again, so do you know the completion rate? If student signs up for a course, do you know do you have any, again, data that speaks to what the success rate of students in these courses are?
Well, I think most of the data is kind of how many students are accessing, and the best UC data is about how many students for those courses. So, and we just looked up the number. So, a student can pay, or a district can pay UC $169 per student, and UC would provide the teacher, and so we can get some better data about how many go through that option. But I guess, our point would be that that's one way in which schools and students interact with Scout, that many students simply use the materials and teachers use the materials to supplement instruction that they're delivering at their school.
Right, but I'm also hearing there's classes offered too.
So that's that second part. So that second part, if a school, for whatever reason, either they don't have a credentialed teacher or a trained teacher to teach that course, can pay UC, and so we can get you better data on that number and then kind of what kind of outcomes those students have.
Right. So the Scout system speaks to there's kind of two things going on here. There's providing support to a classroom teachers, classroom students, and there's also providing classes in of themselves separate from.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Okay.
And you'll look to get me some data on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I don't want to belabor this too much.
I had a question.
12 other
I wanted to get an answer.
No, but I want to make a point here that I think that last week we heard from quite a number of other great programs which had good results.
And this may too.
But we asked the UC office if they could do one thing, what they would do, and they didn't list this one. They listed other programs like EOP, Mesa, Puente, and the transfer program. So I think our direction is, if we're certainly glad that there are monies in the governor's me revised for more outreach, because back to the first panel, it says that we need to get more underrepresented minority students especially teed up to get eligible to go to the UC and CSU. And so we need to focus more on these programs, and we know which ones work and which ones don't work as much or don't have as much data that shows their impact. So I think that we heard last week from Ms. Goulat. Goulat?
Correct.
Yes.
Yvette Goulat, she is the vice provost for equity and engagement. Sorry, the name has changed recently.
So I think I gave her a hypothetical. I said, look, if you had $5 million, $10 million bucks, what would you do? And she didn't say this. She said the other one. So I'll take that, as those are probably the wiser investments, and we concur. And so hopefully in their May revised final package next week, we will look at that and actually look at making it ongoing as well.
Diversity and engagement, not equity and engagement. Sorry.
Okay. So with that, we'll proceed now with the California State University and their proposals. Okay. Department of Finance.
Maritza Urquiza with the Department of Finance. The May revision continues to stress the urgent need to improve outcomes for CSU students. The most recent data reveal that only 19% of first-time freshmen graduate within 4 years. The outcomes for those who are eligible for federal Pell Grants are even lower, with 12% of Pell-eligible students graduating in 4 years compared to 25% of their non-Pell eligible peers. Recently, the Chancellor announced a goal of closing the achievement gap, but did not provide a timeline for doing so. The Chancellor's office has also indicated that the university leaders will meet this summer to revise the graduation rate goals adopted last year as part of the CSU Graduation Initiative 2025. It is unclear, though, what parameters these leaders intend to use to guide their planning. To make real progress in improving outcomes at the CSU, the state needs to be clearer about the best role for the trustees and for other leaders. The administration views the CSU's planning process as an opportunity for the system to articulate much more ambitious goals. To create a strong fiscal financial incentive for the CSU to reach higher goals, the May revision includes $25 million general fund on a one-time basis for middle-class scholarship savings, contingent upon the trustees articulating clear plans with actions and timeframes for improving graduation rates for the system and for the campuses. Specifically, these plans must include goals to increase 4-year graduation rates and 2-year transfer graduation rates to at least the rate of other institutions, and to increase the graduation rate for Pell-eligible students to at least the rate of non-Pell-eligible peers. The Director of Finance would determine whether the plans adopted by the trustees meet these goals. At the same time, we recognize that leaders at the campuses are in a much better position to determine the best ways to improve student outcomes in their particular context. Many of these leaders have cited a need for a dedicated space to learn from successes and challenges that other campuses experience, and to have conversations grounded in research. Therefore, the May revision includes $1.1 million general fund on an ongoing basis to support the CSU Student Success Network. The funds would be administered by the Education Insight Center at CSU Sacramento. Here with me to provide more detail about the network is Andrea Venezia. Dr. Venezia is the Executive Director of the Education Insight Center and has been convening the group planning this effort.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman and members, for having me here, and thank you, Maritza, for the excellent description. I do direct Education Insight Center, and I'm a faculty member in Public Policy and Administration at Sacramento State. Ed Insights is an organization whose mission is to support improved policy and practice in all public education systems, K-12 and higher ed, and it used to be iHelp, the Institute for Higher Education Leadership and Policy that Nancy Shulock ran. So Hans Johnson did a terrific job laying out the problems. I won't go into detail with those. But the reasons why we have those problems are often not clear. We have a complex system, we have complex institutions, and we have a lack of foundational research that can tell us often what the problems are. We had a hunch at Ed Insights, and the Kresge and Gilbert Foundations supported that hunch, that in order to reach system goals, those who work directly with students, people in the middle of the system, need new knowledge, skills, tools, and relationships in order to diagnose problems correctly, implement change, and monitor progress effectively. The network will support that kind of capacity building. We know that effective networks can provide evidence and quality control, avenues for experimentation and innovation, decentralized collaboration, transparency, and shared responsibility. The community colleges have had such a network for decades. The Research and Planning Group of the California Community Colleges has been a partner and a driver of many of the system's reforms. RP's leadership has been helping us develop this network all along the way in the CSU. So what is it? Well, the CSU Student Success Network is a collaborative, cross-campus entity to support large-scale improvements in student learning, engagement, progression, and degree completion. We've been working with 13 campuses with plans to include more over time. As you can see in the handout that you have, there are several main components. The 4 I'll highlight are to support professional development and experimentation through what we're calling the Student Success Labs, to conduct the foundational research that I mentioned earlier, to support actions to improve student learning and success, to bring people together through convenings to build a shared understanding of the evidence at hand, and to think about together the changes that we need to implement to support student success, and to disseminate effectively what we've learned. We're viewing next year as our pilot launch year. To give you a little more detail about what exactly the activities could look like, for the labs, we're working with colleagues on other campuses to select efforts that show promise that could make a difference for students if replicated successfully in the context of the other institutions. Fresno State is working with community colleges and CSUs across the Central Valley to develop common metrics and questions to understand what's happening for at-risk students at their institutions and help them succeed. So that's an example of an effort that could be pulled into the lab and partnered with. Long Beach has done amazing work to help students in physics persist and complete, and they want to be able to share what they've done with other campuses around STEM. And we're talking with campuses involved in efforts to support success for men of color. So state investment would help support system goals around higher education attainment and send an important signal to stakeholders in the system, most particularly those in the middle of the system. It's a space for people in the middle to lead and to hold ourselves accountable for improving student success and providing new, credible sources of information for the Chancellor's Office and state policymakers. I have to say it's been really exciting work to be able to mobilize support and partner with people across the system who have a can-do perspective, and we believe this network can kickstart support and assess work that will make a difference for students. So I thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Okay. LAO?
Jason Constantoros, LAO. So there are two proposals here, the graduation rate improvement plan and the student success network. So I'm going to summarize the recommendations for each of those. First, for the graduation rate improvement plan, at this time we do recommend rejecting the proposal for three reasons. One, it focuses the conversation on one measure, that is four-year graduation rates. But the state did adopt other graduation rates as part of a broader scope to look at when evaluating CSU. And those measures could be important too. Secondly, the second reason is it eliminates an expenditure plan that CSU develops every year, summarizing how they spend monies under the governor's proposal. And we think that plan has some value. It allows us to better evaluate the governor's proposal. And then thirdly, we don't think the $25 million funding is necessary for CSU to develop the report, and it's unclear how CSU would spend the funding. For the second proposal, the Student Success Network, at this time, I think we're still struggling a little bit on the underlying, what we understand to be the underlying theory of the proposal, which is that fostering more conversations could improve graduation rates, and that state funding is necessary for those conversations, or to help facilitate those conversations. But we would note that in last year's budget, the state did fund the CSU trustees budget, and part of that expenditure plan did include $38 million for student success. We think this program does qualify for that. So if this is a priority and if this is something you would like to try, you could consider appropriating funding out of CSU's existing base for this program. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. CSU?
Ryan Storm with the CSU. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you again here and provide you with additional information about the CSU. I ask you to stand with the CSU and fully fund the CSU support budget request with an additional $101 million over the governor's budget proposal. Fully funding the CSU request would mean the CSU could educate 12,600 additional students, like we were talking about earlier in the PPIC's work, help cover our employee compensation costs, tackle our deferred maintenance and critical infrastructure needs, and invest in an enriched educational experience for current students through the student success and completion issues we have outlined in that plan. In regards to the two proposals that you have before you today, very quickly I would say that from the $25 million one time for the graduation rate improvement plan, the CSU is supportive of this. I think generally speaking, we have been on track to really trying to push the needle in terms of the graduation rates, not only in the 6-year level, but the 4-year level through our graduation initiative 2025. And so any additional monies will be helpful. The handout that I handed out to you real quickly is something that you can take back and take a look. It looks like this right here. But on the back side, it details a number of these kind of student success measures that can help the persistence of students and improve their educational experience. On the back side, a lot of the activities that we are currently doing can be augmented on a one-time basis to do a number of the things that, with that $25 million, that could move the needle in terms of student success. Yes. In terms of the second idea of providing additional funding for Ed Insights, the Chancellor's Office is neutral on that particular proposal. We see the value, obviously, in their work in improving graduation rates and greater collaboration across campuses. However, we do have some concerns with the fact that it's ongoing money, and generally we would prefer that money be used to support the support budget request. And although it is a small amount of money, that obviously would take a lot of those to add up to our request. Obviously, we do have concerns largely with having additional earmarks in the budget.
Okay, thank you. I guess our question is for finances. This is one time, and if it was ongoing, is there a reason that you focused on the graduation rate issue as opposed to enrollment growth? Because they're both equal things we need to address. Is this just because it's one time? If it was ongoing, would you have still focused on the graduation rate proposal versus enrollment?
Graduation rates have been a priority for this administration. We would note that increasing graduation rates is a way to increase access. By graduating students faster, you create space for new enrollment.
Thank you.
I would just add, I think we've kind of stated our concern in the past that funding enrollment targets kind of creates perverse incentives for how the state funds the universities. That if you suggest that the only way to grow enrollment is when the university or when the state provides additional money, then you have dynamics like we've had in the past few years where the universities suggest that they would hold kind of enrollment flat absent any more funding. And so I think we're particularly concerned about that at the CSU, what kind of incentives it's created at the campuses, that you have a culture where the campuses see the only way for them to get more money is to increase enrollment. And those types of investments often are maybe inconsistent with the types of things they ought to be doing to improve outcomes at their campuses. So,
okay. Thank you. Questions or comments? Mr. Chavez.
I guess for the CSU's office. $25 million one-time funds with the $1 million follow-on continuous funds systemically just doesn't make sense to me. You're going to spend $25 million up front, gone in 12 months, and you're going to sustain that with $1 million? Does that sound right to you?
No. I think the idea here is that with one-time money, we could do some of these items on a one-time basis. For example, with advising, if our campuses, and some of them are, not all of our campuses are fully employing e-advising tools. Some of them may still have elements of that need to be purchased and actually implemented. Those are great candidates for one-time implementation that can last longer term. Last longer term would be supported with our current base funding in terms of supporting those going forward, right, with IT support, that sort of thing. That's just one example of ways in which we could use the one-time money. Obviously, the preference, of course, is permanent ongoing funding, consistent with our plan that we've outlined to you many times before and we proposed in November. But at least a little bit of money here can actually move the needle, we think, in terms of one-time items that we can invest. And the list is, very long on the back there that we're mentioning. I think there are other instances, but for the matter, for time's sake, I think I'll stop there.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this is a list, right?
Right.
So if I look at the list, reducing the need for development coursework, reducing the number of units required to earn a BA/BS degree. You need money to do that? Don't you guys do that all the time anyway?
I wasn't pointing out this list as the exact what we're going to spend. It's just an example at this point. We have obviously just received this request out, or this proposal out of the administration last Friday, but buried within each and every one of these are different elements that campuses can use to employ, the use of that one-time money.
So
the ones that you cited are not necessarily the best examples, but what I told you earlier about using some, employing some online tools for advising and doing those sorts of things, you could actually use that money in that way. But obviously the preference is for permanent money.
But I think because the other list you have here, you have hiring more tenure-track faculty. When you hire people, that's a continuing expense.
Right, and that's another example it's not the best alignment, right? I mean, from our vantage point, the best plan is ongoing money where we can do that. And I think our plan really invests very strongly and soundly in tenure-track faculty.
I think I'm over there with the LAO and saying, why spend the $25 million one-time money when you can do these things on your own. So it seems to me a waste of money just that's in this discussion.
Questions? Thank you. Hearing no questions, no more questions or comments, we'll hold this issue open. Next item. And I just want to note for everybody, we have public comment, and we're trying to expedite the agenda, so if we can help me move it along. Thank you. Thank you. Medina.